Okay, welcome. Yay, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Narrow Squeak.
We are back.
Yes, and if you will notice, our episode started with a gentle little tingling of some music.
Got it.
Yay!
So
There's
exciting.
there was like a snap or a clicking sound. Was that
Oh,
you?
I clapped.
Oh. Okay, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's just me showing my excitement.
What you guys don't know is that me and Sheena have already started the night off really great by laughing hysterically for 5 minutes before we even started hitting record.
Yeah. Um, so I was trying to tell Crystal how exhausted I am because for the last 2 nights I've been just up until 4:30 in the morning. Last night though I kind of blame myself, I guess, because out of boredom, I started watching Bailey Syrian, and then I ended up Googling all the crime scene photos from David Parker Ray.
Oh.
So, yeah, so I can understand why I didn't fall asleep, but I tried rain sounds, and I tried sleep music, and I tried everything. So Crystal was about to give me her hint, and I'm excited to know where this came from. So how do you fall asleep at night, Crystal?
I don't even want to say it again now. So, what I do to fall asleep, because I struggle to get to sleep, is I YouTube steam cleaning car videos.
I just have to know what the hell? Where did that come from?
Oh, so at one night I had looked up like ASMR videos just to like paint pouring out or cake batter or someone decorating a cake or decorating cookies. All that stuff is all considered ASMR, relaxing stuff to watch that soothes you and relaxes you, and then you can fall asleep. Well, a steam cleaning of the interior of a car was mixed in. So I clicked it on it and it works. It works. But
Well,
the car has to be really dirty.
okay. Well, you know what? Honestly, I will give it until about 3 a.m. And if I'm still up at 3 a.m., I'm definitely going to YouTube steam cleaning cars and see how that works out for me because that's the first time I've ever heard that in my life. And I quite like it.
It
Um,
works.
I'm sure people would think I'm crazy if they ever walked in and saw that, but I am obsessed with cleaning, so people will probably just
Assume
think
that
it's
that's your
that.
natural course.
Yeah, like, this is what she does. This is Sheena in her natural habitat, watching cleaning videos.
And I have to say, I'm not ashamed of it at all. I really enjoy it. I find I find the cars are the best ones, but if you can find a good one of of a pool, those are fun.
Oh my God, maybe I'm just really overtired or that is really hilarious. But regardless, I'm like, my YouTube history is going to be even weirder than it was before. It's going to be like murder, 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 clean, clean, clean. I'm definitely going to get arrested. I'm surprised you haven't.
How do you think mine is? It's murder, 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 weird things getting cleaned, and then Peppa Pig.
Oh, it's fantastic. Oh boy. Oh,
Okay.
actually, last night though, while I was farting around and not watching those videos, apparently, um, I came across this killer that I never heard of before. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, obviously, but Leonardo Cincinsuli.
Oh, I don't know who
Um,
that is either.
eh, yeah, so I just found her randomly, and so what she did, we won't spend a lot of time on it, but she's from Italy. She killed 3 women and turned them into soap and tea cakes.
Interesting. I might look her up
Yeah,
now.
and she gave the soap out to the neighbors and like made the
Ew.
cake. And yeah. Anyways, so definitely worth looking into because I had never heard of her. Um, and she is quite the character.
I
So
guess so.
there's that. And then as for updates,
Oh, let's get back to though. We
oh
have a
yes,
jingle.
what?
Our jingle. We were talking about it
Oh,
and then we got distracted by
oh,
sleeping and car cleaning.
yes,
But
our jingle.
Yay! It's all done.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna actually look her up. Sorry, I should have done this just to make sure I have her name properly.
Yeah. So our jingle was donated to us by an incredible audio editor. She is fantastic. And the audio itself was actually donated to us by a very talented pianist.
Yeah, so it started off with somebody playing the piano, and then his sister, who's again, like Crystal said, really talented music producer. She goes by Jimmy, Jimi, on Spotify. If anyone wants to check her out, she's got some interesting music, really cool. But she added a little bit of flavor to the piano jingle, so now we have our interlude, which is freaking awesome. And she's
And can I
been,
say, they both nailed it. Like, it
I
is
know.
super creepy. It sounds perfect. I love it.
Mm, it's so perfect. It's exactly what I wanted. Well, what we wanted. So
Yeah.
it's all about me. um, yeah, it's exactly what we wanted.
It
So
is.
let us know what you guys think of it. We think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
And it's just perfect to get you into the mood to listen to some creepy things.
absolutely.
So we'll probably, if you guys follow us on Instagram, we'll definitely give Jimmy a shout out and add a link there if you do want to check out some of her other stuff. And she's done a lot of sort of music on movies and stuff like that. So really cool.
Yes. Yeah, check her out. And thank you guys so very, very much. I know you are both listening, so thank you for doing this amazing work for us. I can't even begin to say how grateful I am, and and Sheena.
Yeah, no, it's super awesome, and I guess usually she would charge quite a bit for this, so it's nice as up and coming podcasters that they were very generous.
Yes. Woohoo!
Yay!
Yay!
Um, and the only other thing I wanted to say, but it's not really an update yet, is tomorrow, which this will be
Well,
late, so you guys won't. Never mind, we'll take that out.
no, we
uh,
won't. A week ago.
on January 13th. Uh, so that will be tomorrow for us. Anyways, super pumped to watch The Night Stalker on Netflix. I know I keep rambling and rambling and rambling about it. So by the time next time we record, I'll have an update on that if you guys haven't watched it.
Which is
Um,
actually convenient because our next topic, didn't we decide, was actually the Cecil Hotel?
yeah.
So the
And
timing is perfect.
yeah, so he was one of the freaky people that used to fancy the Cecil Hotel. So Crystal and I are both going to pick some. There's been lots of weird things that have happened there, so we're each going to pick one and talk about that for our next one. So
Yes.
um, that's pretty awesome. So I'm really excited to watch that. And I did finish. What's the name of it? God.
Oh, The Ripper.
The Ripper, thank you. Holy. Did finish The Ripper. It was great. I mean, obviously very sad. He was pretty much a monster, as most of the people we talk about are.
Yep.
But definitely worth the watch.
Good. So I'll check that out.
But everything, I'm giving up everything for The Night Stalker. It'll probably not take me very long to get through it, but that's what I'm doing all tomorrow evening. So
Nice. Yeah, I
yeah.
didn't expect any less.
Yeah, not much else other than that on my end.
Perfect. Okay, well, here is what's going to happen. So I'm going to tell my story now. I have already told this story to Sheena once and then promptly deleted it by accident. So this story will not come as a shock to Sheena, but it will to most of you. So what
But for
we,
dramatic effect, I will still act very shocked.
yes, a lot of oohing and awing, please, would be great.
You got it.
So what we did was when we first started planning our first episodes, one of the topics that we wanted to do was we wanted to give each other a location, and we wanted to make the other person pick a crime from that location, and that's what you had to do. So Sheena was super nice, and she's like, well, you get New Mexico. And I said, okay, that's great. You get Massapequa. And she said, what the fuck is Massapequa?
Exactly what I said. I was like, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Like, this is no longer fair. You get Schenectady.
Yes. So she switched my location. which was hilarious, and we laughed and we cried. But what she didn't realize was that she actually had given me a serial killer, though she is not actually deemed a serial killer. So what I decided to go with was the story of Mary Beth Tinning. So Mary Beth Tinning, just to give you a little bit of her background, Mary Beth was born September 11th, 1942. Her parents were Alton and Ruth Rowe. She had a younger brother, and they were raised in Duanesburg, New York. Her father had fought in World War II, then worked at General Electric when he came back from the war. And during the time when he was in the war, and while her mom was working to help keep the family afloat while he was gone, her extended family really jumped in and took over for caring for Mary Beth and her brother, but not in a nice way. Like, they made it very clear that she was a burden, that she was unnecessary, and one family member actually even told her that she had been unwanted.
Oh, that's still not nice to hear, even though I've heard you say that before.
I know.
That's,
It just it makes you feel sad, right?
yeah.
So then there are reports of her trying to kill herself as a child, but I can't find any official documents on that. Just that people said that she had done it or tried to. She had made a few claims about her father physically abusing her, but when they actually went to court, she downplayed it and said he had hit her with a fly swatter, and said that because his hands had arthritis, they weren't of much use, so he would do different things to abuse her instead of actually hitting her himself. So he would lock her in a room, and she felt like she deserved it. So she really downplayed the abuse as a young child.
Mm.
Yeah. So after high school, Mary Beth began working a few low-paying jobs and then became interested in becoming a nursing assistant, which she started to do at Ellis Hospital in Schenectady. And in 1963, she met Joe Tinning on a blind date. And within 2 years, they were married. This is where things start to get really convoluted. So I did instead of doing like this murder happened and this murder happened, what I did instead is I did a timeline. So bear with me a little bit because it is a bit of bouncing back and forth. So in May 1967, Mary Beth and Joe have their first child, which they named Barbara. And then in January 1970, Joseph Jr. is born. And then in December 26, 1971, baby Jennifer is born. She is born with hemorrhagic meningitis and multiple brain abscesses. She lives for a week, and then she ends up dying in hospital. She never actually went home. So that caused a lot of strain in the family. So then 2 weeks after Jennifer died, Joseph Jr. was brought to the hospital. Mary Beth said that he was having seizures and had choked on his own vomit. The doctors found nothing wrong, so they released him home with Mary Beth. Within the next 24 hours, though, Mary Beth brought Joseph Jr. back, and he was dead upon arrival. On March 1st of the same year, Mary Beth rushed Barbara to the hospital because she was in convulsions. She died the next day after being in a coma for several hours. The doctors attributed her death to Rye syndrome. So at this point, she's had 3 babies, and all 3 of them are gone. So then it's a couple years later, on Thanksgiving on 1973, she gives birth to Timothy. And then December 10th, being that this is the American, because we're in Canada and Thanksgiving is in October for us, whereas Thanksgiving is in November for the States. So she gives birth to him in November, and then December 10th, she brings him back to the hospital, and again, he's dead upon arrival. She claims that she found him in his crib, and the doctors rule the death a case of SIDS. Now, shortly after that, it's 1974, and Joe Sr., her husband, is admitted to the hospital with a near-fatal dose of barbiturates. Turns out, Mary Beth tried to kill him, but was unsuccessful, and Joe decided not to press charges. Here's my problem with that, though. how can you
There's a
kill
few.
well well first of all, there's her babies are all gone. But how do you drop the charges on murder or attempted murder? You don't.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of out of your hands. I just thought the law would kind of be like, you know what, we're just going to step in here because clearly you're not making good choices.
Well, and not to mention, if you catch someone who has attempted to kill their husband and they have also had 4 babies die in 5 years, 5 years, I think. Just 1 second. Let me look. Please let me look back at my dates.
You might want to take an extra little sneak peek at them. Just
Seven
saying.
years. 7 years.
Yeah,
So the first
that's
baby
a
was
lot of
born,
death in 7 years.
right? So why would you not have taken a closer look at this point? Anyways, so I guess all is forgiven because a year later, in March 1975, they give birth to Nathan.
Still goes home with her. Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
decides to keep making more babies.
All the babies.
uh,
So 1975, Nathan is born. And then in September of the same year, Mary Beth brings Nathan to St. Clair's Hospital, and he is declared dead upon arrival. She says she was driving when she noticed that the baby had stopped breathing in the seat beside her. First of all, he's in the front seat, which is, I get it, it's the 70s, but still seems odd in my head.
how did anyone make it out of the 70s alive is like what I want to know. Between serial killers and front seat babies, it's just all bad.
70s and the 80s were not good to children. So then Nathan's death was also considered a case of SIDS, which is a little bit more of a stretch because he was alert and in a car seat, in the front seat of a car. Usually, anyways. But I guess this was about the time that they were starting to figure out that SIDS was a thing, and maybe they were over
Diagnosing it, I guess.
diagnosing it, maybe. So then in August of 1978, they adopt a little boy named Michael. And then in October of 1978, they give birth to Mary Frances. In January of 1979, so at this point, again, going back in time and looking at everything, Michael and Mary Frances are the only 2 babies in the home in 1978. In January 1979, Mary Frances was taken to the hospital for having seizures. The hospital staff was able to revive her and considered it a case of aborted SIDS, like they had caught it in the middle of it happening. And
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I don't know if it is. Like
Oh,
I've never
maybe
heard of it
then.
before, but again, maybe just that time. And then 1 month later, Mary Beth brings Mary Frances back in to the hospital in full cardiac arrest. She ends up with irreversible brain damage, and 2 days later, she ends up dying. In the fall of 1979, they have a little boy named Jonathan, and in March of 1980, Mary Beth brings Jonathan to St. Clair's Hospital, and he's unconscious. They transfer him from St. Clair's to Boston Hospital for a better examination of his condition, and the doctors there couldn't find any medical reason for him to have stopped breathing, so they send him home. Now, this bothers me as well, because, again, she's been in and out of these hospitals. This baby, even if you rule out the fact that it's super suspicious,
like extremely suspicious.
you have a baby in front of you who stops breathing, or who had stopped breathing. So if you want to take the suspicious part out of it, maybe do more tests on him than for 2 days and then send him home.
They're like, oh, maybe he'll figure it out. Bye.
Yeah, no. Less than a week after Jonathan was released from the hospital, Mary Beth brought him back, and he was brain dead. By March 24th, they do decide to pull the plug, and he dies in hospital in 1980. So then we have Michael, and remember, he is the little boy that was adopted in 1978. This one is the one where they start to actually catch on and become suspicious of Mary Beth, because Michael was adopted. So Michael was 2.5, and she brings him to the pediatrician's office saying he's unconscious. But when the doctor examines him, they actually find that Michael is dead. And when the medical community gets a hold of this information. They start to put it together that there is no genetic relation between what's happening in the Tinning house, and they start to become more suspicious of Mary Beth. So they start looking back at the old cases, but not quickly enough, because Mary Beth gives birth to Tammy Lynn in August of 1985, and on December 19th, she calls a neighbor who's an RPN and tells her that Tammy Lynn is laying on the change table unresponsive. The neighbor comes over, rushes over, can't find a pulse on Tammy Lynn, and by the time she gets to the emergency room, she is pronounced dead. So at this point, we have 8.
Thank you for doing that, because I told myself I was going to keep track this time and I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, 8 babies
that had come into the Tinning household and did not survive. So this is where they start to go, something's going on. The police had suspected that there was more going on, but there was never any proof. I would assume a lot of the doctors and nurses had probably talked about it, but they started finally talking to each other and putting it together. After Tammy Lynn's death, they interrogated Mary Beth, and she confessed to smothering Tammy Lynn, Nathan, and Timothy. But she ended up retracting the confession to Timothy's death. She denies being responsible for any of the other babies, and she is suspecting of killing all the children except for Jennifer. Jennifer was the one that had been born and with hemorrhages, so she never actually left the hospital. There was no time where she was unmonitored, so there's no real way that they could say that she had actually done that one.
Mm-hmm.
It took the jury less than 24 hours to find Mary Beth guilty of Tammy Lynn's death, and she was acquitted of deliberately killing the baby, but was found guilty of murder by depraved indifference to human life, which is a very different charge, different sentencing.
Mm-hmm.
So Mary Beth was sentenced to 20 years to life, 5 less than the maximum, or 5 years less than the maximum. She appealed, saying she didn't voluntarily give her confession, and there wasn't enough evidence otherwise to convict her, and that was denied. She was then denied parole in 2007 and 2009, and at her 2011 hearing, she said, "After the deaths of my other children, I just lost it." Tinning told the board January 26th that, quote, "I became a damaged, worthless piece of person, and when my daughter was young, in my state of mind at that time, I just believed that she was going to die also, so I just did it." She was denied for that, or for lack of remorse in that case as well, because she didn't really say that she was sorry for it. She just said she assumed she was going to die anyway, so she just did it. Well, that's pretty, like, if you killed all the other ones, then that's safe to assume that you're going to do it to this one as well. It's not that you believed it happened, so it happened. That's not how that works.
No, that's definitely not. I'd like to know why nobody was saying anything to Buddy Joe there.
Well, yeah. So Joe's about to come back into our story here.
Okay, perfect.
But not in a good way. She was denied parole again in 2015, but she was released in August 2018 after serving 31 years of her sentence. So, but guess who picked her up at the gates?
No, I did not. How do you find someone that freaking loyal? Tell me. That's insane.
Dear old Joe was at the doors waiting for her to come home. As for Mary Beth and poor sad Joe, they still live in Schenectady together. Mary Beth is under parole supervision, which she'll be under for the rest of her life. She has a curfew, and she is required to continue to attend domestic violence counseling. So,
wow.
Something that I don't think I made clear is she actually only ever was put on trial and charged with Tammy Lynn's murder. She wasn't actually convicted of any of the other ones. So while I say she most definitely killed enough to be considered a serial killer, she was never actually convicted of it, so the court system doesn't view her as one.
Wow. That is, I'm still blown away.
I know.
I'm still blown away by Joe. What a guy.
I know. I mean, you must really love her.
Yeah, like that's a lot to endure. Like all the babies, and I mean, almost being murdered yourself.
Yeah, a part of me wonders whether just all that loss maybe made him not want to
Probably
lose.
affected. Yeah, anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
because
sure there's a lot more deeper stuff going on there, but
absolutely. And we only have a bird's eye view of what's actually going on. But
hmm
I just, I couldn't imagine living life like that. And I don't know. That's just me. I would not stick
uh
with someone who, first of all, murdered all my babies, and second of all, tried to kill me.
yeah, like how do you sleep with one eye open forever? Sorry.
I'm not down for that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's wow, well, he is a loyal man.
Sure is. I guess that's one word for
We'll leave it at loyal. Yeah,
it.
that story still blows me away though.
So personally, I am fascinated by these stories because I have a fascination with Munchausen by proxy, and just that like obsession with sickness and illness, and the parents that enjoy the attention that comes from that. I just really it fascinates me quite a bit. So stories like this, they intrigue me, and I couldn't, I can't wrap my head around how they get pleasure from stuff like that, because I know when my kids are sick, it terrifies me. So
Yeah,
I can't
it's
put
def
the two and two together, and
it's
they fascinate me.
yeah, it's definitely a very it's not a very talked about like mental health disorder, but it's very destructive and very I guess fascinating would be the word too. It's
Yeah,
yeah, it's interesting the whole, Gypsy Rose Blanchard and all that, but
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
She uh,
interesting.
she was really the point that highlighted Munchausen by proxy as a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've known about it for a long time and been curious about it and fascinated by it for years and years. But it wasn't until that happened with Gypsy Rose that it became something that people were talking about in a common place, right? So it was really
Yeah,
fascinating to watch other people try
gotcha.
and figure out why this is happening. So,
Yeah, no, it is super fascinating. To be honest, I've never actually taken a lot of time and looked into it, like a lot of it myself. I just know like that story and a couple others, but now you've given me something else to do.
I know, because you needed so many more things to look into.
I know, and now I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I've done a lot of research on it. And that is my episode. And I don't know if you have anything else to say on this one. We'll wrap it up, maybe.
I guess the only other thing, and I should have said this maybe at the beginning, and maybe it should be at the next one, but I'm not going to give a lot of details, but we might actually have a story coming from the community soon. So uh,
Yeah.
that's super exciting, and it has to do with a barrel. Oh, I'm just going to tell you that.
Barrel. Is it local?
Yes.
I think I know it. I think I know this one.
So, I chatted with her on Monday about it and just kind of figure out, I was kind of Googling some details. So, anyways, there might be a community story coming to fruition soon. So that's exciting. Not, it's not coming to
Amazing.
fruition. Yeah. So, yay.
Awesome. Well, if that's the case, then we will uh, end this one and we will catch you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.